and a Bajan pork chop. We're going tropical now with all these Hudson Valley flavors. Hey everybody, I'm Ric Orlando. Welcome to Field Goods Kitchen, where we get the greatest local stuff from New York, the Hudson Valley, the Berkshires, and regional stuff from Field Goods and make a great recipe. Everything I want to cook today, you can get from Field Goods. That's field-goods.com. If you're not familiar with Field Goods, they're a local business. They're based in Greene County, New York. They gather and procure all types of great artisan and local ingredients, produce, fish, meat, provisions, dairy, and then they deliver it to your door or to a pickup spot in your community. So you really got to go online and check out what they have. The food is amazing. I'm going to show you a great dish. So look, it's fall. And we're thinking, well, it's autumn, we're going to cook autumn food, and I've got apple cider, and I've got a pork chop. But I'm forever optimistic, so we're going to go tropical today with this pork chop. We're going to take this pork chop, we're going to do Bajan style, which means from Barbados. Bajan is kind of an adaptation of Barbadian. And I'm going to show you how to do it. It's really great. I have these amazing Hudson Valley Harvest, locally raised pork chops. Let me just tell you something. If you're going to eat meat, eat good meat, eat local meat. This Hudson Valley Harvest pork chop, unbelievable local meat, raised beautifully by people who you can meet. So there's a person behind the food, and that's what I love. So this Bajan pork chop, it's Barbados style. We're going to start making what they call Bajan green seasoning. It's kind of like a pesto, but it's aromatic. And we're going to start out, again, all from Field Goods, some beautiful onion. We have great onions in the Hudson Valley. And we're going to put a couple of cloves of garlic because the garlic's looking good. And then, true to the tropical nature, we're going to add some green onion as well. And then to get it greener, I'm going to use green pepper. But if you only have red pepper, you can use red pepper. It doesn't make a difference. It's just the green pepper, it's a little bit more bitter, but it adds a nice, bright green color to everything and makes the green seasoning right in the food processor. You can put a generous pinch of salt. And then we want to add a little heat. I have a nice little Scotch bonnet pepper here. Now, look, I'm going to cut it in half, and you can see there's lots of seeds, but the heat is not in the seeds. I've told you this before. The heat is in the ribs. So if you want to take the heat away, for the most part, flatten it out like that. Scrape out most of the ribs. I'm going to put about a half a pepper in there. You can put more or less. You can even use a jalapeno if you want, but the flavor of the Scotch bonnets and habaneros is brilliant. So now comes the fun part. The herbs. So because Barbados was occupied by the British, they brought their herbs, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. I love Bajan seasoning, green seasoning, because when it cooks, it's kind of like the best of jerk meets Thanksgiving. So there's parsley, there's rosemary, fresh, beautiful sage. This is a great time of year for sage. Couple of big sage leaves in there. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give them a quick rough chop so they break down in the food processor properly. I'm going to take some fresh thyme, which is best to pick from the top down as opposed from the bottom up against the grain. It slides off the stems a lot better, and it's got such a delicious flavor. I love thyme, especially in autumn. One of my favorites. Okay, so we have parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. We have salt. We need black pepper. Now we're going to add a little liquid. By liquid, I mean acid. Juice of half a lime. That could be a lemon if you like, but we happen to have a lime. And a little splash of vinegar. I'm working today with Dwight Miller Orchard's apple cider vinegar. This is the elixir of life. This is also from field-goods.com. So get your cider vinegar. I do a nice shot every day, and it makes me feel really good. And the last thing we're going to use, because we live in a gluten-free house, I've got tamari, but you can also use soy sauce for this. But you want a little bit of that soy sauce or tamari in there to give it some savoriness and also just make it kind of brown a little bit on the inside. So let's load up the food processor. It's always fun using it backwards. Pulse it, pulse it, pulse it, pulse it, then let it run. Until it comes to like a coarse grind. Let me just do a quick, I'm going to scrape down the sides a bit and give it one more good run. Beautiful. So, Bajan green seasoning. Now, it's a little chunky, it's super aromatic and fresh, and it smells like the raw vegetables it is, sort of like a sofrito. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a way to get this Bajan green seasoning to cook inside the pork. So here's a nice pork chop. Not crazy thick, but nicely thick. Let me turn on my burner now to start warming it up. Good. I'm going to cut a pocket in my chop, just like this. See? Take the pointy knife, go right in there, cut a slit, nice little pocket, so that we can stuff it. Let me come from the other side. There you go. Okay, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to take a little bit of butter. I'm going to stuff it right into my pork chop, just like that. And then I'm going to take some of this green seasoning. So there's no breadcrumbs, there's no apples, it's just aromatics and flavor going into the center of the pork chop, just like that, okay? Salt, generous. Pepper. Salt, generous. Pepper. And then, watch this little trick. Make a little line. Salt the fat on the edge, because that's one of the best parts. So here's how we're going to cook this. We're going to go to another ingredient that I get from Field Goods. It's Susquehanna Mills sunflower oil. If you want to find a great oil to cook in when you're not using extra virgin olive oil, that's a neutral flavored oil but is non-GMO and relatively local from Pennsylvania, sunflower seed oil is the way to go. It's one of my favorites. We use it all the time, and it's, oh, look at that. Starting to shimmer already. I'm going to lay my pork chop away from me into the pan. We want to get it nice and golden brown. Just checker. Let's go a little longer. You notice I'm not moving it a lot. I'm letting it cook. I'm letting the heat do its work. Caramelization, when you brown meat, when you brown vegetables, when you brown fish, what you're doing is you're bringing the sugars forward, and that salt you put on the side and the sugars that come from the meat or vegetables make that irresistible, can't stop eating it sensation. Let's take a look. Getting there nicely. Another 30 seconds, and I'm going to show you a little trick. Okay, now before you flip it, stand her up, right on its edge. Look at that. Hold the fat right into the hot oil for a minute. Get a little color on it. Turn it over, and we're going to go into a 300-degree oven for about 7 minutes. We don't need to go very long. Look at that beautiful pork chop. Come in and take a close look at that. Gorgeous, right? Now, through the miracle of television, that one was cooked already. It's so juicy. Now, what we're going to do, we've got this great juice going. We're going to build an apple cider sauce here with a little heat. So there's some onions, and it's apple season. This is a beautiful Hudson Valley mac. There's great apples out right now. Now's the time. Let's put the apples right in. Boom. Right in with the onions, and then all that beautiful pork goodness in the bottom. And now what we're going to do to add a little heat is we're going to take the other half of hot pepper, but we're not going to cut it up. We're not going to make it so that it's all through the whole dish. We're going to put it right in there so it kind of infuses again like a crazy tea bag. Like if you watched the pumpkin rice video, we did the same thing. Okay? So now that's going beautifully. We're going to take some of this beautiful apple cider vinegar and do what we call a quick deglaze, which means we're going to scrape up all the good bits on the bottom. Let it come to a simmer. Get a good shot of that. That looks pretty good already, doesn't it? But now we're going to add the counterbalance of the vinegar. We're going to add the sweetness. And what we're going to use is this awesome Red Jacket apple cider. It's cider season. You can use it for a drink. You can mull it, but it's also fantastic as a sauce for pork. So we're adding the apple cider to the cider vinegar, the hot pepper, the apples, and the onion, and the pork drippings. So look at that, huh? Beautiful, beautiful. We're going to let this cook a minute, get a close look at that. Okay, look, the flavors are concentrating. It's getting super delicious. I'm going to taste it because I love it. Oh my God, sweet and sour. But now we want to thicken it. And we're not going to use cornstarch. We're not going to use flour. We're just going to use a little bit of mustard. Good Dijon mustard or even a good German mustard has a natural emulsifying properties. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon of mustard in there. And you're not even really going to taste the mustard. You're going to get a little bit of tang, but it's going to actually turn this into a sauce, as you see happening right before your eyes there, right? The mustard is emulsifying the cider and the vinegar together. Now we can turn this off. Now, you don't have to feed someone the hot pepper, but if you got a guest like me in the house, you may say, hey, let's do that. Before we sauce it, I have some of the delicious pumpkin rice. If you saw the previous video, get the pumpkin rice recipe if you haven't, because it is great. Let me get that little sprig of thyme. Jamaican pumpkin rice, man. And a Bajan pork chop. We're going tropical now with all these Hudson Valley flavors. Now we're going to get this beautiful apple cider sauce, glaze, and deliciousness. Oh my God, let's clean the plate, chef. I don't know about you, but I'm having pork chops. Let's see how this beautiful Bajan pork chop is cooked up. Tender. Look at the juices flowing and look at the Bajan seasoning. The Bajan seasoning is right in there in the pork chop. The butter helped to cook it. Oh man, I want a piece of that. Oh, so good. All these great ingredients you can get from Field Goods. That's field-goods.com. They deliver to your neighborhood or to your home, depending on where you are. Anywhere in Eastern New York, New York City, up to the Hudson Valley, all the way through the Capital District. We use great cider. We use this gorgeous, I love the Black River Valley butter. It's unbelievable. It's kind of addictive. I keep it at room temperature right there. We had apples, sweet, beautiful sunflower oil. But don't forget the pork chops. Hudson Valley Harvest pork chops. Fantastic. You will not regret breaking for these pork chops. They are the best you've ever had. I'm Ric Orlando. Thanks for watching Field Goods Kitchen. Tune in, get the recipes online, and make sure you get your order in soon to get your pork chops for the weekend's dinner.